everybody. I'm sure you can hear us. Let me just click in here and see if it's happening. Are you streaming in yours? Do you see it, Henry?
Yeah. It's looking, yeah, we're good on my
see
side.
I see me. There we go. Cool.
Let me just double check, but yeah, we should be good.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Yeah, we're streaming. So
yeah, we're live.
What's up, everybody? We're excited as usual to come on a Friday. It's been a challenging Friday for me personally. My daughter had a birthday, so she stayed home. I don't know who lets their kids stay home on their birthday. Anyone?
You're a cool dad for doing that. That's cool.
Am I a cool dad? Listen, this was my wife's idea, not necessarily
mine.
Oh,
really?
I was okay with it because I still got to do some work, and I yeah, it's like give her a little something. Also, right. Our sons, both their birthdays land outside of school, so they're like over holidays, like January 1st, and then November over Thanksgiving is my other son's birthday. So they
that's unfortunate.
on their birthdays they get to do whatever they want. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, so we let her come home, and then she was also sick for 2 days this week, which was challenging. So this week it's been a really odd, challenging, difficult week to try to get things done, but you still you're never, you got to sometimes accept those days. You can't, you got to accept that sometimes your weeks are just not going to be, like, oh, I got so many things done, I worked out 5 times today, and like, no, I that's not it. I went to the gym yesterday, tired, with 5 hours of sleep. I pushed too hard, hurt my shoulder, but I'm still going, I got to get it. It's just one of those things, man. It's always like the reality of things versus what people see on Insta, type of thing.
Yeah. There's someone was saying that, like, there's a correlation between how often someone posts online and how unhappy they are. I was like, oh,
definitely. If you post like multiple times, then you're
in a dark place.
You're in a dark place.
Is that the conclusion?
I am really bad at posting. I guess that's a testament to me just enjoying those moments.
Totally.
And I have a social media team that's like posting for me and helping me out with those things to keep me on top of that. I hope that even with that being done, I'm not perceived as a very sad human being. I hope that's not the case. Yeah, that'd be terrible. Yeah. So we, as I don't know how many of you guys know, but Henry and I have, we've been friends for a while. We created a joint partnership company called Kued, which helps people with their sales and marketing through webinar marketing. And we've also created these streams that we do on Fridays. We're calling them at this point kind of these queued up streams, right?
Yeah, I like it. I like queued up. We tested it today.
Yeah. And we thought, today, we were going to discuss the power of storytelling. You guys, come on, the power of storytelling, why it's important. A lot of people, but as we led into this, it's like a lot of people show the non, they only show the good. They only show the filter, the good filter versus this is the actual life filter, right? Where you have, baby puke on your shirt and right. Your dog is sitting by your desk and peeing on your floor because you haven't taken her out yet because you had to do meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. These are the things that people don't see. But these are the questions that arise around, what do you show and what don't you show? I had a meeting this morning with the whole team, and I was about to get on and do my final speech. Mm-hmm. And then my daughter bangs on the door of my home office, and I'm trying to inspire, 20 plus people on, hey guys, we got this going on, this, and she's banging on the door, and I had to kind of disrupt that moment to deal with that, which is fine. I mean, it's like she's been sick, so I went, but it was like, it's like I thought for a moment, I was like, maybe I'll just ignore it and just act like it's not there. But I'm like, I can't. She's my daughter, and she's banging on the door, and they could probably hear it. And it eventually got so loud that I was like, okay, we have to put a pause on this. And it was like, I felt like I was pulled out of a focus, but I feel like we make this focus, and we almost say like we want this energy, this focal point where it's like, if it's not there, it's almost, it's like when it's there, it's like, oh, I'm creating this perfect moment, right? And I was like, I'm ready to be in this moment, and it was disrupted. But if you think about it, that's reality of life. That's real life. That is what happens, and I don't know. It's just, I start to think about how that stress that's built up around, oh, now I gotta handle my daughter while 20 plus people are waiting on me to do this and that.
Right.
It's like all those stresses, they're what makes up real life. And it's like, at the end of the day, I think people all understand that that's what it is. And it's almost like not shying away from it or hiding it or locking the door and allowing the banging to happen, but more so about just letting the mess happen, letting that
enjoying the chaos.
Yeah. Letting that level of embarrassment just happen, and then just breathe through that moment,
Right.
Like, who was that? Wasn't there somebody, getting on like when all of us were home, it was like getting on, a news correspondent person was at home and like completely yelled at their kid.
That went viral, and that was not received well. Yeah,
not received well. And unfortunately, I've been in that situation where I've had that level of stress, and I don't blame that person. That's like, you're trying so hard, you put the suit jacket on and you have shorts on underneath, and it's all the time. And you're like trying to do this thing, and it's for prime time, and you're like, you get ready, you have your bullet points that you want to say that are going to be so poignant and so life-changing and so world-changing, and you're ready and you're about to say them, and then suddenly the kid comes in buck naked, comes in with a diaper, comes in with a fever, whatever. And it's just like, and of course you've got to watch your kid, but it pulls that moment out from underneath you. And it's like a question of, what do you do at that moment? Do you just say, I'm sorry, one moment, just handle the embarrassment, or do you what do we have to do? It's a question of like, and I've been trying to figure out what to do in those moments. It's like just breathing through those moments and allowing them to happen. And, maybe I should have had my daughter come in and just sit right here, even though she's just wearing literally a diaper. I should just put her here and just put her face and just say, hey, you can say hi for a sec. Now, will you go and go to the bathroom and start to brush your teeth? And then I'll be right in. Just give me 2.5 minutes. Like, so if I had set it up that way and allowed myself to have that very calm conversation and just let people see that, and not feel like I have to hide that, maybe that would have been the better way to go. And I think that leads to this conversation of storytelling on how we don't show the mess, we show the
most ideal.
The most ideal, not the mess. The most ideal. I was looking for another M, so thank you. That was actually. We don't show the mess. We don't talk about the mess. We don't mention, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But in true storytelling form, everyone has good and bad and ugly, and everyone has those embarrassing moments, dark moments. And in storytelling, especially as it relates to like, as it relates to like you being able to solve someone's problem, as an expert, let's say, you know, talking about all your accolades without sharing your dark moments, you do a disservice to your audience, because they now don't know all the crap that you've been through that
Right.
they also have been through. And that's the thing. It's like storytelling it's the, I can relate to that person because they've been through this. And that's the true part of storytelling that is that makes magic, especially, if we're looking at it from the perspective of webinars and perspective of building clients and customers and growing your business. That's what creates a relationship with your potential customer. That's why people buy. They buy because they know you on a much deeper level, and a lot of us obviously shy away from that. I think we're better with storytelling now in business. I think so many brands have talked about storytelling for the last 5 years plus, where now it's really important. But I still feel that we're still hiding some of that, right? We're not necessarily also, really tapping into part of our story that is going to be that thing that resonates with where our audience is at.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There was yeah. I mean, it's funny because I've talked to a lot of people on a daily basis now, being in the business of sales, and it's funny watching like the people's like mental hurdles of like investing in themselves, and one of the and even what relative to you can call it expensive relative to whatever it is, right? Like if you're you and I we've done deals that are 5 figures, 6 figures, we've had days and months like that. It's like and then also like when we first got it started out and we had no money, we had to go like buy a course for $1,000 that was like gut wrenching. And so there's different levels to the game. And so there was a couple people that we were talking to, talking about a program that was, I think it was like a couple thousand a month. And they're like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I'm like, well, what's the alternative? And they were talking about a way lower quality thing that's going to keep them in that like ongoing cycle of just having no money. And so it was like, I've actually I understand what you're going through because, I've invested, I said X number, which was, it had 6 zeros, right. On, into my business. And then they're like, oh, wow. Like, okay. Like that's, they're like, well, I do. Okay. Then they appreciate the fact that because I've gone through that pain and I know that pain, but just on a way exaggerated level, that they can actually probably learn more because of that process. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the part of it, is that storytelling is all about how you've been at where they're at.
Right.
And through your own discoveries, you were able to get through that to wherever you're at now, which is obviously, presumably, a much higher level than where you were at before. And they are at a level that you used to be at, and now you're. And so now the relatability factor is, yes, I was here and I had to figure out the hard way, which got me to here, but I also invested and spent this much, where if you are spending, a lot less with me, I can get you there faster because I've been where you're at and I've gone through the steps, and I know what can happen if you don't invest in yourself now, and I think that's the thing that obviously, you can have the solution to their problem all day long. Oh, I can build you a funnel that's going to generate revenue for you. But at the end of the day, it's at the end of the day, it's got to be that they need to know where you've been. They need to know the bad that you've gone through. Listen, I had to go through this and this to realize that this is the thing that actually worked, right? And so you have to paint that picture for them, and that, you know, all the power, the storytelling is all about how it relates to your audience, right? It's all about how it resonates to your audience. It's not about, you know, I've got these accolades, you know, and how you talk about how awesome you are. That has nothing. That's not even on their radar. It's not attainable. They're not at all touching those things, right? So it's like, what's the point in talking about, you know, how amazing you are without them knowing how you relate to where they're at in this moment in time?
Right.
So, I mean, obviously both combined create a better picture, but you have to start with the relatability factor and then say, and this is where I've been able to get to, but only because I've gone through these moments, right?
Yeah. I mean, people want to know that you can give them the thing, right? So if you, I mean, and it might be like, that's how you get in the door, right? But that's not what's gonna build that relationship, right? So even if you say, I've done X, Y, and Z, and that's how you've established of like, I'm the immediate authority and you should listen to me. But then you're actually going through, well, you know, this is X, Y, Z mistake, right? Like I've spent, you know, I told someone today that we, you know, because we were running a couple different internal webinars, as you know, and we were having some, you know, technology hurdles like all people do, and people then, you know, actually hire us to solve those problems, and we do it really well, but there, you know, there's some internal miscommunication, and which was my fault because I said one thing and thought another was going to happen because I have massive ADHD, right? And so and so I was telling the team when, you know, they felt bad about it. I'm like, listen, I've spent, you know, $10,000 for one client webinar that went for 7 hours and didn't make a single sale during the webinar. And I lost sleep for like a couple days, and then we ended up recouping the money. But I was like, I understand that mistake. Don't feel bad about it because we've all been there, right? So that's
right.
You know, that's different than more of the customer journey and sales, but it's the whole relatability.
Well, it's the you know, all those things are important. Like all the that I mean, that's, you know, to know that, you know, part of that story, what is important about it is that you take your customers seriously. You take on their stress, right? Which means that you don't take for granted what you're trying to do, you know, and that part, as it is a story, as it relates to your audience, is something they should know, you know. Like as an example, you know, we ran a webinar, a big webinar with Jay Shetty, right? And we had a large webinar going on for Jay Shetty, and there was stuff going on. There was some problems that happened. He was running like one automated webinar and a big launch, just one automated webinar event, and this was years ago, and we were ready. We had servers ready to go, and he just bogged our servers down, crashed the server, like type of thing. I probably shouldn't have named the actual name, but anyway, but that left me numb. I was like, I can't let that happen ever again. And so we created redundancies and so many things to be able to have a massive one singular automated webinar launch that can happen, you know, but we only really covered that due to having a situation where it didn't work. And then we had another webinar that was run at some point later on with a large, my cat's bothering me, with a large audience from Gabby Bernstein and Amy Porterfield. And we had that large webinar go off, and it went off great, no problems. And it was, you know, it was because
so much better. I bet.
Yeah, because we learned, but the thing that people need to understand is that, like, we put ourselves out there to try to solve that problem. There's to create something completely different. And sometimes when you create something that that you're trying to do that no one's done before, and that you're trying to, you know, you're pushing your boundaries to know where you can go. You know, you're dealing with these things, right?
Right.
And the cool thing is like it's always about like talking to customers who understand that too. But you know, I think as it relates to storytelling, I think it is important that customers understand, you know, how bad things have happened too, you know, and how you've taken those bad things when it happens to your customer or client. You know, we all have horror stories, you know, as it relates to growth. And if you didn't freak out about the fact that your client had a 7-hour webinar and that no sales were made, then you wouldn't be you wouldn't even be in business, you know.
Right.
But because you cared so much, you took on the stress of that moment, and you know, yeah, and that's what we deal with all the time. Like you and I are very in a very high stress sort of situation, because a lot of what we do matters for people, because if they do something and it doesn't work, they've spent money on trying to make it work, right? And if it doesn't work, then you know there's a loss. And so we know those those high, you know, high risk sort of like services that we do, that you know we take those on. And because we take them on, you know, I always say this to my customers and clients, like I don't take the responsibility of you generating your sales on our platform lightly. Like I can't. I have to take it as dead serious. I have to, you know, create redundancies, but we're human, and I can't always guarantee it's going to be perfect out of the gate. But what I can guarantee is that we're always going to work towards improving. And that's what we've always done, work towards that improvement. And I think that oftentimes that's a better approach than taking the approach of like, we're always perfect, no problem, stuffing down those moments where, you know, we have bad, you know, where things don't go our way, you know. I don't think, I think that people would rather, you know, it's better to not overpromise and underdeliver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Better to talk about, you know, talk about the bad, and you know, and things like that as well. So that's interesting. We're kind of talking about like, you know, moments of where we've done big things and they either work or they don't work. And what we learn from that, and how that can help in our storytelling to also allow a customer to see why they should work with us, from, you know, our work ethic, you know, positioning of work ethic, positioning of like, of all those pieces. Oh, okay. I gotta let this cat go.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, because when you're absorbing that kind of responsibility, especially when it comes to like video and doing these type of events, it's not like it's a landing page and there's some people that are visiting and you make improvements because it's like this evergreen thing. It's like, you know, you have people that signed up for an event that expect to be there. They expect you know, everything to be working, you know, on your side, on the consumer side. So, and if it's not working at that exact moment, it's not forgiving. It's like not with what we're doing. Like, we don't have a forgiving environment because we have competitors that spend hundreds of millions of dollars more than we can afford on their technology. So it works just the way it needs to. Right. So it's interesting because it's like all that stress is really consolidated into like a event, like one single event, which is
one singular moment in time, oftentimes. And you know, and it, again, I think that's the, you know, that it's okay to even talk about that. Like, it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, talking about those moments and talking about like the kind of behind the scenes, you know,
Right. How
and
many eggs on your face did you have to take?
yeah, how many eggs? I mean, man,
So many.
I mean, yeah, and I've run webinars on other platforms that never worked, you know,
Right. Right.
that I spent tons of money on. I mean, it's happened, you know, but it's also, if I think about that thought alone, you know, then it really is about like, you're doing something that 99% of the people out there have decided not to do potentially,
Right.
you know, like
Right.
on a high level, you know, I mean, you know, putting, I mean, I wonder what the statistic is now, because back in the day, obviously a lot fewer people did webinars, you know, but obviously everybody's doing, you know, everybody's talking on Zoom and things like that.
Right.
They may still not be doing a high level of communication through sales on video, right?
Mhm.
Live video, right? And they might be just using video in general or not video at all.
Right.
But
Right.
I think that, you know, when you're talking about live video moments, it's like not as many people probably choose to do sales in that particular way. However, that said, the other part of this, which is kind of interesting also, is that because the technology has improved so much over the years, it's like it's definitely come down in terms of the stress levels, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's highly commoditized now.
Right, right. And I think more people understand because they've had Zoom webinars that have failed, or Zoom
Right.
meetings, or
Right.
any type of meeting that has fallen apart. And so it's like it's it's part of the culture now, you know,
For sure.
that people get, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. I mean, think about like now, we have, if you were doing like, FaceTime or video chatting, like 5 years ago as like a regular form of communication, if you did it like too much, people would think you're weird, right? But now you've got, you've got family and friends in all different parts, our parts of the country, parts of the world, and it's like, well, now, oh, that's just part of their culture. Now that's the way that they communicate, and so
hmm,
it's interesting because now that people are so overexposed to that now, it's making more sense for people to use that in their everyday and business life, because it's like the way that business, like B2B, operates, and the way that business to business, like sales and marketing, operate, they try to differentiate it so much versus like how the business to consumer side is played. But it shouldn't be. It should, like, they're they work
they're
hand in
identical.
hand,
They
because
work very similar, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're. I mean, again, with B2B, like you know, oftentimes people think that storytelling isn't a part of B2B.
It's
You know, they don't.
crazy.
Yeah, they don't. They feel like it's like it better to not talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's only
Right.
the good, and then it's very dry and not so. You know, it's very technical and
Right.
you know, yeah, it's it's odd that they don't realize that in B2B storytelling is just as important. And I think it's come back around, obviously, with platforms that have, like, you know, with how platforms have become mission driven,
Yeah.
and how they've you know, positioned themselves as mission driven and things like that, which, you know,
Right.
which you know, creates more of that sort of story positioning,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how storytelling can lead the way in that. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, to put a bow on what we're talking about today and what we've discussed, it's like, um, every good presentation needs to hear about your particular story. If you're the presenter, has to hear about what you've gone through as it relates to your audience. Typically, you know, if you're the storyteller or you're the person putting on the presentation, chances are you've been maybe where your audience has been before, you know.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
obviously you're going to have to understand your customer avatar, you know, to know if you've been there, and then how to find those right pieces of what their pain and suffering is, and
Right.
how to figure out if you've had that same pain and suffering. And I had a, you know, I kind of like just told my own story oftentimes, and because I told my own story, I saw people saying, yes, that's me. I've been there. I've been there. I've been there. And that validation has allowed me to keep my story in place. And oftentimes I've heard this too, that some people don't like to hear the fluff in a webinar. And that's very true.
Now it's become true. Yeah.
Yeah. Fluff in a webinar is not good. Like if you're telling a story and it doesn't have a reason behind your story, and it doesn't have an emotion behind your story, if like you're not digging in and telling them exactly what you were feeling at the moment you were feeling it, then it does not hit as close to home. And if someone's telling you, I don't care about any of this, they're not your customer because they've not dealt with that pain.
Right.
If they've not dealt with that pain,
appreciation for what you're doing.
Yeah, they have no appreciation. They're not going to be a customer. But if they've gone through those pains, and you're talking about how you've been in that situation, then they should be, on the edge of their seat, listening attentively, and you've got them locked in because of the relatability factor of your story to theirs. And I think that's what people have to understand. It's like, no one cares about fluff. They care about, so your stories shouldn't have fluff. But you should talk about how your story relates to them and how it's in the overall, how it fits in the overall presentation itself. It shouldn't just be some tangent thing that goes out of left field. It should be
trying to fit it in there,
part of the thing. Yeah, it should be. It should be like in our presentation, how we talk about, like, people think it's traffic that's the problem, and then we go into detail on it, or they think that I can't sell on a webinar, and then we talk about how we were able to sell on webinars, or or I hear this one all the time is like, will people, I do. When it comes to like the whole, like, can I sell off a webinar? And I tell the story of like how I was terrible at running webinars, an overshare. I sucked at it. And, and I did webinars where the internet was cutting out, the microphone was broken. And with all that, I still made money. Right. So my stories are true. And they're all about, like, this is a misconception, because if I can do it, you can do it. I'm trying to demystify the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm sort of someone special that can make money off a webinar. No, I'm the, if I, as this, and this, all these things that would bring my chances down of success, if I can still have success, so can you.
Right.
And that's, that's a part of storytelling you have to focus on.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not able to relate with them, it's like, what are you really doing? You're just trying to create like some fictional story. And if you don't even have a story, you should use someone else's story that have applied someone else's concepts, like borrow theirs, right?
Or a customer's story. If you have a customer story, then that works great. I mean, customer stories are like the key, to the sale. Like, talking about yours is great, but definitely talking about your customer's story, and their, the problems they faced until they did this, which is using your program, hiring you, doing this, doing that. That you can't, that's the ultimate storytelling that you want. You want other people's stories who have used you to validate why you're the one they should be hiring or doing or using or buying from.
Right.
So storytelling is at the heart of everything. The more stories you can get, testimonials, video stories about, hey, this is where I was before this happened. Before I met Henry and Casey, I was doing this. I was trying these different sales techniques. I had 5,000 different funnels working. I was spending way too much on different platforms, way too much on different outsourcers. everybody was making different webinars. I had these guys work, or different funnels. I had this team working on that funnel, this team working on that funnel. Right. Nothing came together, was non-congruent. Spending so much money and making nothing until I started working with Henry and Casey. And then they streamlined everything into one simple webinar funnel. Every piece of that webinar funnel had a consistent continuity from registration page to thank you page to the event to post notification emails or pre-notification emails to post segmented follow-up emails. All of it was one beautiful, simplified thing that allowed me to now generate X, Y, and Z. Whereas before I was generating, almost nothing. In 3 months, these guys were able to get me to this point. And now I'm consistent every single month, thanks to Casey and Henry, right? That's the type of story that you want to hear, right? That's the type of story you want to try to find also in your, to put into your presentations, to put into your everything, marketing, basically. So
yeah. I try to listen to some other like keynote, talks that some of the latest, influencers and stuff are doing when they do these in-person events, which seem to be getting smaller and smaller because most of them are digital now. And one of them was Gary V. And Gary V. I think it was like 8 months ago or 9 months ago. He basically went in front of a bunch of business owners and he's like, if you're a business owner and you're marketing on X, Y, or Z platform, like raise your hand. And then he would call people out because he's like, this is terrible marketing. Like you guys who are in the B2B business and who are marketing, you guys suck at it. And this is what you need to do. And he was kind of going into the whole story side of it. And it's true. I mean, he's obviously, having a way more aggressive, in your face approach about it, but that's what people need to hear. It's like, you're actually screwing this up and you need to change what you're doing right now. And, he was like, stand, and then he had everyone in the room go, and he said, stand up if you promise that you're going to stop bulk spamming people on email and on LinkedIn. Be thoughtful. And so we had a whole room of people go and stand up, and but that's kind of the whole takeaway with it. It's like that's an important part of it. So
I mean, it's you have to start thinking about how you can revamp your marketing to match that, to let your customers tell why you're important, why you're the answer, and the more you can do that, I think the better results you'll get overall.
Totally.
For sure.
Totally.
100%.
I know you got to go pick up your kids. And we're over. But no, I appreciate doing this. I'm sorry we had to miss last week, but no, it's been good. We've been consistent with this stuff. It's awesome. And thanks for everyone who's been watching. Let us know what you think, and we'll be sharing a link for everyone. Actually, we send emails to everyone in our email list to watch these videos every week too, which is cool. So
and we'll give you guys more information and insight about a webinar that we run every single week, where we dig in deeper, and we actually share a webinar conversion playbook on a consistent basis every single week on these. And we just Henry and I get in there and we answer questions and just rap about all things webinar conversion. So thank you for joining us. If you've watching on YouTube, my Facebook, my LinkedIn. Ben, thanks for coming in and watching. Appreciate you. Anyone else who's watching, we'll see you. Obviously, these stay consistent. And if you like the content, we'll be here next Friday. Is the plan to touch on a new thing that we queued up. That we'll queue up for you.
I've been live streaming the webinars too, but they're not going to be able to communicate with us on there. But Tuesdays and Fridays. So awesome, cool. Well, thanks
everybody.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon. See you, Henry.
See ya.
Okay.